Hello and welcome to Witches and Wine. I am your hostess with the mostest, Lola Stardust. Witches and Wine, obviously I've had some wine. Witches and Wine is a show we do where we drink wine and we talk about witchy stuff. So before we get to our guests that we have, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the lovely Silenus Stardust, and he's going to explain the wine that we're drinking tonight.
Thank you, honey.
You're welcome, sweetie poo.
Hey, guys. Tonight, we're drinking a French Bordeaux. It is a white wine. It's a Chateau Palene. Very light, crisp white wine. A perfect example of what a Bordeaux should be.
Super
It's
good.
got your three normal grapes. It's got your Semillon, your Sauvignon Blanc, and your Sauvignon Gris.
It's really light.
It's very light, refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a little lemon zest to it. Runs about $10-12 a bottle in most places. So check it out if you want to see what a French Bordeaux white wine tastes like. I'm going to go ahead and step out now, and you'll see why I chose a Bordeaux, kind of being the basis of wine and where things come from. So tonight's subject, we have a special guest, and I'll let Lola take over from here.
Yes! Oh, I didn't even have to tell him to get out of here. Come on over. Watch out, don't sit on the doggy. All right. Hi!
Hi there.
Hello!
How are you?
Good. And there goes the dogs.
That was exciting.
I know. They got very excited. Wait, you gotta get kind of cozy with it. It's okay. Okay. I don't get offended. Okay. So tonight we're gonna talk with a friend of ours named Shane, and Shane and I go back. We started in People of the Woods coven together, and don't tell anyone, but Shane was my favorite. And
Shots fired.
I'm just saying that now because he's here. The next guest, I'll tell them, you're my favorite.
I knew you said that to everybody.
I do. So, we're going to talk about Thelema. Am I saying that right?
Thelema.
Thelema. It is something that I've always been fascinated and interested in, but I know a little bit about it, but I thought it'd be really cool to talk to someone who knows a lot about it. So, welcome, Shane.
Welcome. And
Let's-
hello out there.
Let's toast. How do you like the wine?
Oh, it's great.
Isn't
It's
it good?
Yeah.
You always got to take a sip when I toast.
Oh, good. It's a
That's
good rule.
the rule. Yes. So, again, we're going to get him drunk.
It's not hard.
That's what she said. Okay.
Oh.
Hey, so Thelema. So I want to ask you about what is Thelema in a
Thelema
nutshell. And I'm
is-
sorry, I don't mean to goose you.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay.
Thelema is the philosophy or religion created by the 20th century occultist Aleister Crowley in around 19 teens-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a very individualistic philosophy, and it is tied heavily into pretty much the entirety of contemporary occultism in all of its forms.
Nice. And that's why we were drinking something that is a what was it, honey? A
White Bordeaux.
no, but it's a
It's the
basis.
The basis of the foundation, the beginning.
It's a foundation for a lot of white wines, and Thelema is a foundation and a basis for what I practice, Wicca. Yeah, that's a huge thing. So, you said it was a philosophy. Is it a philosophy or a religion? What are your thoughts on that? I've read that it's both.
Well, I guess it depends on how you define those
either
terms.
or, yeah.
So, some people define religion in terms that have to include some concept of deity or God or whatever you want to call it. And if that's how you define it, then Thelema doesn't necessarily have to be a religion. It could be.
So there's
a
no
philosophy.
deity or God involved?
There can be, but maybe not in the same sense as other religions
Okay,
consider it.
okay.
In Thelema, the higher self is kind of the conception of deity.
Okay, yeah.
It's your self that is above your sort of egoic, mundane desires, and that can be seen almost as an atheistic idea for some people.
Yeah.
But it depends on how you view it. For some people, it's
I
absolutely
really
not.
feel like I'm goosing you right now. Maybe that's the pillow. I'm getting a pillow in your butt.
Oh, that's okay.
Mixed up.
That's
Okay.
perfectly fine. That is very much like a pillow.
Don't lay your head on it, though. So, our dogs. Anyone who watches these episodes, our dogs like to put their 2 cents in. So, when did you start getting interested in Thelema? What brought you to it?
Well, I started, as a lot of people in the sort of New Age occult scene start, by going to a bookstore and looking at the New Age section and picking out whatever books I could.
Okay.
Started with Wicca because it really drew me in, the sort of nature-based philosophy, and
We're
I
on our
followed.
camera. Sorry, Derek's.
That's funny. I can see
That's
back there.
Derek. Okay, sorry.
That's okay. So in all of these books, in all these Wiccan books, I would find these little passages of things, little quotes from Aleister Crowley. And
Yeah.
in the back of the book, they always had these, recommended readings, and there would always be books about Aleister Crowley. Like, why does he keep coming up? Like, what does he have
Comes
to do
up a
with
lot.
this? So I followed that to its logical conclusion, and then eventually started reading some Crowley and noticed that, wow, a lot of the stuff I was reading in these Wiccan books is found in here.
Yep. And Thelema, can you tell me about how it got started from
Absolutely.
Aleister
That's
Crowley?
a fun story.
Yeah.
Okay. So, this is a neat story. It started with the Book of the Law, which, if you've heard of Crowley, I'm sure you're familiar with.
Is that what is that also known as the Liber?
Liber Alvel Legis.
Thank you.
The Law.
That's what he said.
So, this is a book that Crowley received, and I can't remember the exact date, you'll have to forgive me, I think it was like 1909 or somewhere around there, when he was in Cairo, in Egypt. He received it from a being that was dictating to him, a being called Aiwass.
Okay.
And the story of the reception of the Book of the Law is a really interesting one.
And he was with his first wife during this trip, wasn't he?
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So he was with her, and he took her into this chamber of the kings, I think it was, or something along those lines, like a pyramid or something. He wanted to perform the Bornless ritual, which is from a grimoire called the Goetia.
Okay,
He wanted
yes.
to show her the spirits and basically be like, hey, look at this is neat. you
Yeah.
know? And so he did this ritual with her, and she started saying these things and acting kind of funny, and she started saying, like, they're waiting for you. Mm-hmm. And it's all about the child is something that she said.
Yeah.
And he was, thinking, what is she talking about?
She
Like,
was
what is this?
filled with spirit.
She was.
Yeah.
And at the time, Crowley, he had a lot of imperfections. He kind of was a little bit, condescending toward her, and he thought, because she kept talking about how Horus wanted to talk to him. And she thought, well, this lady, she doesn't know anything. She doesn't know who Horus is, She doesn't know what she's talking about.
Yeah, but
She
how
said-
would she all of a sudden know?
So he said, well, she probably picked up the word somewhere when we were in Egypt, so I'm going to take her to the museum in Cairo and have her pick out an image of Horus, just to see if she really knows what she's talking about.
Okay.
So they took her into the museum, and he was kind of giggling the whole way, because as they're going through the museum, she passed by like a dozen images of Horus, and he's like, oh, she doesn't know.
She doesn't
She would have
know.
pointed out any of these. But she made her way directly to the back of the museum, to this display, the stele, which has now come to be known as the Stele of Revealing.
Okay.
Which had an image of Horus on it, and the number displayed was 666.
Okay.
Which is a number that, if you know anything about Crowley, he already identified with that number because
Yeah.
he considered himself kind of the antithesis of everything that Christianity
Yeah.
represented.
Yeah.
And that was when he really started taking it seriously. He's like, oh my
How did
gosh,
she?
like, wow, maybe there is something to this. And I wish I had brought a representation of this to show, but the image is of this priest, whose name was Ankafna Kansu, giving an offering into fire in front of Horus, who is on a throne.
Oh, wow.
And then over the top of him is the goddess Nuit, who is sort of bent over. She's the star space goddess.
She's sky or
Night.
Yeah, the night goddess.
night. Okay.
And at the center is Hadit, the winged globe at the sort of the center of this.
Okay.
And so that was when Crowley started taking this seriously. Like, the number 666, he was very into numerology, so that was significant.
Yeah.
And so he decided, okay, we're going to do this. They want to talk to me. I'm going to go and we're going to do a ritual and we're going to see what they have to say.
Yeah.
And so over the course of 3 days, he performed this ritual to sort of invoke the deities, and he was spoken to by this disembodied voice while he was in this trance state. He worked himself into this deep trance, and he heard this voice talking to him that dictated itself as Aiwass.
Yeah.
That was what it called itself. And each chapter was a different deity speaking to him.
Oh, wow.
You have Nuit, the goddess, Hadit, which was the sort of the winged globe, the god at the center, so you have this goddess and god polarity there.
Yeah.
And then Ra-Hur Kuit, sort of Horus as in his incarnation as the sun god, as their son.
Okay.
And these 3 chapters, one on each day, form the Book of the Law.
Okay. Cool.
And so, when he wrote this, at first he didn't really think anything of it.
Yeah.
He kind of he was like, oh, that was an interesting little phase, and he kind of
Yeah, I
pulled
had an
away.
experience, yeah.
Yeah, but it kept coming back, and he just kept coming back to this book, and eventually he just accepted it, like, this is something important.
Mm-hmm.
And this has sort of formed the foundation of Thelema. Everything that is Thelema comes in some way from the Book of the Law.
So, are people who are into the Egyptian pantheon, are they usually associated with Thelemic because of that? There's a lot of Egyptian pantheons in different beliefs. There's the Kemetic,
For sure, yeah.
and then Thelema, and I'm not gonna claim I know anything about Egyptian panthology. I've worked with Sekhmet, and that's about it.
Okay.
But I'm not.
Fierce goddess.
She's. Oh yeah. I was like, oh shit, I might need a little more information. So I noticed a common thing with did Crowley, would that be their deities? You said earlier that's not the deity. They don't work a lot with deities, but
in a
it
way,
was influenced by that.
Yeah. So the Book of the Law can be viewed in a lot of different ways. It doesn't have to be viewed. You don't have to accept the literal existence of these deities to accept the Book of the Law. They can be viewed as sort of cosmic principles.
Okay.
And so Crowley
Okay.
kind of elucidates on that in his commentary. He talks about how Nuit represents infinite possibilities, the infinite expanse of space, and where she represents infinity, Hadid is the finite point at the center of the circle. And then at the point at which all of those connect, at every connection point, it is the sphere of manifestations where reality happens, and that's Rahu or Kuit.
Okay.
Sort of the energy of the universe.
Okay.
And so
it's
if you view
very
it in that
symbolic.
way, it's going to be very symbolic.
Yeah.
But you could, of course, also view it as, there are some people I've met who definitely do see them as legitimately existing, objectively existing deities.
So, what is the saying about the true will about Thelema?
Sure,
That's what I'm really interested in.
So yeah, I'm sure if anyone's heard of Crowley, they've heard the phrase, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. That is sort of Thelema in a nutshell. That's the big important phrase that you'll hear a lot of the time.
Because Thelema means
will in
will.
Greek.
Okay.
And it all comes from that phrase, which comes from the Book of the Law. The term "do what thou wilt shall be in the whole law" was one of the verses.
And if you recognize that as a Wiccan,
you might remember the Wiccan Reed, as it harm none, do what you will.
And doesn't that mean that so Gerald Gardner was friends with Crowley?
He was a high-ranking initiate in the OTO for a while, which is the Ordo Templi Orientis. Mm-hmm. That's Crowley's initiatory order.
And so Gardner borrowed a lot from Crowley.
He did, yeah.
And I rumor has it that Doreen Valiente, when she didn't like Crowley, is what I heard. And so when her and Gardner worked together, she wasn't a fan of him using a lot of Crowley, so she would kind of lighten it up. Here, I told you she comes out.
Yes,
the magic cat. Every time.
That's funny.
Yep, she's making her appearance with her tail.
She's really friendly.
Yeah, she's because you're magical. She likes magical people. Oh my god, but she's putting her cat butt in your way. I'm so sorry.
It is what it is.
So that's what. So explain in Thelema what that means. I mean, we do know what it means in Wicca, but I'd like to see the origins of
So Crowley, goes into great depth in his commentary about what this means, what the word will means. And when you hear that, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, the first thing that you think is it means just do whatever you want. And it's actually the exact opposite of that. What makes this fascinating is the will in do what thou wilt refers to a concept called the true will. Mm-hmm. And the whole philosophy of Thelema revolves around the idea that every person should strive to discover what is their true will, that beyond their sort of ego desires and all these things that keep
So their authentic self?
Yes, exactly, absolutely. Their higher self, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
And it's the self that is in harmony with the universe, and if you discover it and discover what your true will is, then nothing can hold you back because you're going in perfect harmony with the universe.
That's beautiful.
I love that.
I love that. Yeah.
The way he describes it is, it's as a stream flows down a mountain without the lust result or without resistance, just flowing, and that's kind of how the true will is.
Well, it's almost kind of very Buddhist too,
it is,
because when you remove desire and you remove the ego, and they would talk about you remove desire, you remove lust, you
are removing pebbles from the stone, the water flows free.
Yes, yes,
absolutely.
thank you.
That's a very good way of putting it.
That's great. Yeah, you remove all that. when there is no ego, you are your true spiritual self. And so that is just a very common
it's kind of a lot of
belief.
philosophies.
Yeah.
And what makes it interesting is once you understand that, it's not do what thou wilt is not as much do what you want. In fact, it's kind of the opposite sometimes, because you might want to do things that are really going to hinder your true will, things that are self-destructive, tendencies that are going to, cause both either spiritual or physical damage to yourself. Those are the things you want to cut out of your life.
Yeah.
So Crowley refers
but
to
it makes you own your shit.
It does, yeah.
I swear.
That's
it
good.
makes you own your shit. Yeah.
For
And I'm
sure.
sorry, Crowley.
He says that it's the greatest possible freedom and simultaneously the strictest possible bond.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. So, and we talk about how that shows up in the Wiccan Rede, and we were talking earlier about how it shows up in the Lord's Prayer.
For sure.
What is it?
Not my will be done, but
thy will be done. That is, that's, so it's everywhere.
It is.
It really is everywhere. I love that. I know there was other things I was supposed to talk to you about. Does anyone remember?
Oh, we can always spitball.
What is your favorite thing? Okay, so Thelema, is there rituals that you do?
Yes. So, so to be a Thelemite, you don't technically have to do any rituals, but most Thelemites do, because Crowley sort of set out this formula for achieving your true will.
Yeah.
And calling what he calls the holy guardian angel, which is sort of a metaphor for the higher self, or it can be seen as even literal. But Crowley's central ritual in the OTO was called the Gnostic Mass. And if anyone out there is a Wiccan who's familiar with the Great Rite, I would very highly recommend going to a public performance of the Gnostic Mass if you ever get the chance. It's wonderful.
I've read about it, but I've never viewed it.
It's great.
Yeah.
For any of you who are in Washington State, Horizon Lodge in Seattle does public performances of the OTO of the Gnostic Mass.
Really? There's no one here in Spokane?
No, I wish.
Maybe
but
that's
hey, anyone
something
out there?
Maybe someone can start that.
It would be great. But
you'd like to do that, wouldn't you?
I would very much like to. I never got to pursue initiation in the OTO. I was a corresponding affiliate for a while, just getting the newsletters and things.
Yeah.
And occasionally went to Gnostic Masses, but...
Can you, for those that don't know the OTO, can you explain that just within just like a couple, like a minute?
Yeah, it stands for Ordo Templi Orientis. It was an initiatory order that Crowley joined. It was kind of I believe Theodore Royce was the guy who started it, and it was sort of a branch off of
Golden... No, didn't Golden...
Freemasonry.
And
and it stands for the Temple of the Orient.
Didn't Golden Dawn come from OTO, or was that a separate thing?
They were kind of separate, but related. They both have, they all kind of come from the same.
Okay. So back to OTO. So who was part of that? There were some famous people, weren't there? Or
there have been a lot of people who've been in the OTO that have been like celebrities.
Was Gardner part of it?
Gardner was. I believe he was 8th degree, which is it only goes up to.
He was the highest ranking.
He was.
What's the highest rank of OTO?
Well, he was the
9th
highest ranking surviving person when Crowley passed away.
Oh, wow.
So by all rights, it was his game to play, but he chose not to.
Oh.
And then he started Wicca, which has a lot of the same elements in it.
Yeah,
It seems, and this is just my opinion, I have nothing to back this up other than conjecture, but I feel like he took these ideas and made what he wanted it to be, like his kind of vision of the same ideas.
So for the Wiccans out there, can you tell them and us what are some of the similarities that we practice now as Wiccans and with the OTO and Thelema and all that?
Yeah, well, the first similarity you'll find is if you read the Charge of the Goddess from the original Charge of the Goddess or the Charge of the God, there are passages that are not only inspired by, but directly, word for word, taken from the Book of the Law.
Yes, because there is a Charge of the Goddess in the Book of Law that I read.
The beauty of the green earth and the
that whole thing, and it comes from. It
comes from. I don't know if it was the Gnostic Mass or Liber Alve Legis or both that it came.
It is so beautiful.
But yeah, it's,
oh my gosh, it is the Crowley version of, because I did a paper on the Charge of the Goddess and the origins, and I like the Crowley one the best. Oh God, it was beautiful.
I'm biased, so
yeah, I know you are. Yeah. So what else besides the Charge? of course, the Wiccan Reed,
For sure,
that part,
and
yeah.
I think that's a good way to understand the Wiccan Reed better. If you understand the idea of true will, that can influence the way you think about the "and it harm none, do what you will." One interesting thing, by the way, and I don't want to go on too much of a tangent, but the "and it harm none" clause of the Wiccan Reed is actually inherent in the law of Thelema, because one of the things that is in there is that any restriction of will is against the law of Thelema. So acts such as harming another person or anything that another person doesn't want to happen is against the law of Thelema. So the "and it harm none" clause is already
It's
in
just
there.
assumed that it's... okay. That's interesting. Well, we could go... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was saying, but with the Gardner change, do you think that he put that in there to more directly express that, where maybe Crowley was a little more free-willing in that?
Yeah.
Maybe to make it more specific?
Yeah, well, yeah, because I
think
from what I've heard of Crowley, he had plenty of willing, but it seems like there was others that may have not been willing, but were just there by chance and got caught up in the Crowley effect.
That, and there's also a stipulation there. In Thelema, if someone's doing their will and another person is doing their will and those wills are in contradiction, then he says, "As brothers fight ye," Horus is a god of war, and there's no... He doesn't make any apology about the fact that if you and someone else are in opposition, that you should...
You have that right. You have that right to fight.
Or if someone's trying to restrict...
That's what she said! Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's okay. If someone is trying to restrict your will or anyone else's, in Thelema, it is not only your right, but your duty to stand up for another person's right to do their will. So
that's beautiful. That's how it should be.
Sure.
So is it strongest will wins?
Kinda.
If they're in conflict. But theoretically, according to the model, if everyone is doing their true will, then there shouldn't be any conflict. So if there is apparent conflict, it means someone is on
brought
a
the
path.
ego into it, and
Exactly.
that would be that the person who's on their actual true will would win out because they have let the ego side go.
Precisely, absolutely.
So they would go with the flow. They would overcome
I was gonna
that
say,
obstacle.
if there is no ego involved, you will just let others just do what they're doing, and you do what you do, and in that, even if there's separate and opposite and different, there's a harmony in it.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, I mean, we could do a whole nother show on this, and you know what? We do that. I would love you to come back for a part 2.
Sure.
Yeah. But before we go, is there any questions that anyone has for Shane?
I can hold off to the question and answer part of part 2.
Okay.
Okay.
Really? Okay. Anyone? Questions or additions or anyone? Look at he's going like this with his beard.
Stroke the beard.
Yeah.
Pondering hairs.
You're all right. I think my question is, can you be Wiccan and Thelemic?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Do what there is no law beyond do what thou wilt.
I love that.
It
is the whole law.
Yes, and I knew that, but I wanted to hear that because I think that's beautiful.
I consider myself that.
Yeah.
Well,
And there's nothing wrong with it.
You practice in a Wiccan coven,
Yeah.
but you consider yourself a
Thelemic.
Thelemic.
Yeah.
Thelemic or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that's beautiful, but it's not beautiful that I'm out of wine. So now that I'm out of wine, we need to end the show.
That's the signal.
That's the signal. Well, thank you so much, Shane.
Absolutely,
This
it was
has
fun.
been awesome, and I would love to have you come back and either continue or talk about something else if you have any ideas. And if any of you that are watching, all 8 subscribers and those on Facebook, if anyone wants to be a guest on the show and wants to talk about a topic, please email me at, what is it? Crossroadscoven at gmail.com. And you can be here and drink wine and hang out with magical cats and hear dogs bark and eat good food and drink good wine. It's amazing. Anyway,
Sure.
so thank you so much.
Absolutely,
it
thank
was
you.
awesome. Yay! And remember to always walk with the goddess and be kind to one another. And until next time, blessed be.
Blessed be.
Bye-bye.